I'll never forget the way the room went silent. The manager's voice echoed through the hallway as he said, "You're done here. Pack your things." And just like that, Michael's whole world shattered. He stood there, frozen, his heart pounding in his chest. His coworkers looked away, pretending to be busy, avoiding his eyes. Nobody wanted to be connected to him. And the reason? It wasn't because he did something wrong. It wasn't because he was lazy or late or careless. No, it was because of his tattoos. On his arms, his chest, his hands, art that told his life story, scars of his past, and symbols of his journey. To him, they were memories. To his boss, they were a problem. "People don't want to see that kind of thing in this company," the manager said coldly. "It makes us look unprofessional." Michael wanted to scream. He wanted to fight back, but he couldn't. He needed the paycheck. He needed this job. His mom's medical bills were piling up. His younger sister still needed help with school. He didn't have the luxury of standing up for himself. So he swallowed his pride. He picked up the small box of his belongings, a photo of his mom smiling, a crumpled notebook full of his sketches, and a pen that barely worked. That's all he had left of his time there.
As he walked out, he felt everyone's eyes burning into him. Not one person said a word. Not one person stood up for him. And in that moment, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in years. Pure shame. But what he didn't know was that life was about to flip upside down. That the very thing that cost him his job would soon become the key to something bigger than he ever imagined. Because weeks later, the company got a new boss. And this boss wasn't just anybody. This man carried a secret, a story so powerful that when Michael found out, it would change everything. But let's rewind for a second. Before we get to that twist, you need to know who Michael really was. Michael didn't grow up with much. His father left when he was 7, leaving his mom to work 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. He was the kind of kid who wore hand-me-down shoes 3 sizes too big, who'd sit in the back of the classroom drawing superheroes in his notebook because he didn't want the other kids to see him crying. When he was a teenager, he fell in with the wrong crowd. He made mistakes, big ones. And every time something happened, every time he wanted to remember a lesson, a loss, or a promise, he inked it onto his skin. A clock on his forearm for the time he almost lost his best friend in a car accident. A bird on his chest for the freedom he dreamed of but never had. A simple word across his wrist: hope.
These tattoos weren't decorations. They were pieces of his soul. But society didn't care. People saw him and judged. And his boss? He saw a threat to his professional image. So Michael lost his job, and for weeks he struggled. He worked odd jobs, delivered food, cleaned cars, anything to keep his family afloat. At night, he'd sit by his mom's hospital bed, holding her hand, telling her things would get better, even when he didn't believe it himself. And then came the day. He walked past his old office building, just out of habit, when he noticed something strange. The sign on the front door had changed. A new name, a new owner, a new boss. Something in Michael told him to stop, to just look inside one more time. And that's when he saw him, the man who would change his life forever.
Michael stood outside that glass door, his reflection staring back at him. For a moment, he thought about walking away. Why torture himself? This place had already broken him once. But something inside, maybe hope, maybe pride, made him pull the handle and step inside. The lobby looked different, warmer. The cold gray walls had been repainted. There were new plants by the windows. And the front desk receptionist, someone he'd never seen before, smiled and said, "Good morning, sir. Are you here to see Mr. Daniels?" Michael froze. Mr. Daniels? He didn't know that name, but his curiosity pushed him forward.
Yeah, he lied. I just wanted to see him for a second. The receptionist nodded, picked up the phone, and within minutes, Michael was being led upstairs. The office door opened, and there he was, the new boss. A tall man with kind eyes, a calm presence that filled the room. He wasn't in a stiff business suit. He wore a simple shirt with the sleeves rolled up, showing faded ink on his own arms. Tattoos. Michael blinked. Did he really just see that? "Come in," the man said warmly. "You must be Michael." Michael's heart skipped. How do you know my name?" The man smiled. "Because I know your story." And in that instant, Michael felt the floor tilt beneath him. The man introduced himself, Daniel Carter, the new owner of the company. But he wasn't just any businessman. He had once been exactly where Michael was standing, a young man, judged for his tattoos, turned away from job after job, forced to start from nothing. And then Daniel said something that hit Michael like a punch to the chest. "I know what it's like to be rejected for the way you look. I've been there. But the thing is, those tattoos, they're not shame. They're stories. And I respect that." Michael couldn't believe it. For weeks, he had been dragging himself through the mud, feeling worthless. And now here was someone, a boss no less, telling him his tattoos weren't a weakness. They were his strength. But that wasn't even the biggest shock. Daniel leaned forward, his voice steady. "Years ago, when I was down on my luck, there was someone who showed me kindness. Someone who believed in me when nobody else would. Do you know who that person was, Michael?" Michael shook his head slowly, confusion written all over his face. Daniel reached into his desk drawer, pulled out an old, faded sketch on paper, and slid it across the table. Michael's breath caught. He recognized it instantly. It was his drawing, one he had sketched as a teenager at the community center. Back then, he had left a stack of sketches behind, never thinking they meant anything. Daniel's eyes softened. That drawing, it kept me going through some of the hardest nights of my life. You don't remember me, but I remember you. You gave me hope when I had nothing, and now it's my turn to give that back to you." Michael's hand shook. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You're offering me a job?" he whispered. "Not just a job," Daniel said firmly. "I want you to come back, but this time I want you to lead. I want your story, your art, your resilience to be part of this company. You don't need to hide who you are here. In fact, I need you to show it." Tears burned Michael's eyes. Weeks ago, he was thrown out like trash, and now the new boss was offering him something he never thought possible. Not just a second chance, but a chance to stand tall, to be seen for who he really was. But even then, he hesitated, because deep down, he still had scars. He still wondered if the world was ready to accept him. And that's where the real test began. Daniel reached into his desk drawer, pulled out an old, faded sketch on paper, and slid it across the table. Michael sat there in silence, staring at Daniel, his mind racing. He wanted to believe this was real. He wanted to grab the opportunity with both hands. But doubt whispered in his ear. What if I fail again? What if they all still judge me? Daniel seemed to read his thoughts. He leaned back in his chair and said softly, "Michael, the world will always have people who look at you and only see your skin, your ink, your past. But what matters is how you see yourself. You gave me courage once. Now I'm asking you, will you give yourself that same chance?" Something inside Michael broke open. For years, he had been carrying shame, carrying fear, hiding behind excuses. But here was a man who wasn't just giving him a job, he was giving him belief. Michael nodded, his voice trembling.
Yes, I'll do it. Daniel's face lit up with a proud smile. Good. Welcome back, Michael. Let's show them what real strength looks like. And just like that, Michael returned to the company. But this time, everything was different. On his first day back, he walked through the doors with his tattoos uncovered. No more long sleeves to hide his arms, no more ducking his head. He walked tall. And when the same coworkers who had once looked away saw him again, they were shocked.
Whispers spread across the office. Is that Michael? How's he back? Wait, he's working with the new boss? And Michael, he didn't say a word. He just smiled, because now he wasn't there to please anyone. He was there to lead. Weeks turned into months, and under Daniel's leadership, the company transformed. Michael started designing creative campaigns, using his art, his experiences, his scars to bring authenticity into their work. And clients loved it. They connected with the honesty, the rawness, the humanity in what Michael created. Soon, Michael wasn't just an employee. He became the face of the company's new culture. The guy who once got fired for his tattoos was now being invited to share his story at conferences, schools, even TV interviews. People who once judged him now wanted to hear from him. And through it all, he never forgot the lesson. But it's your life. You can choose how you want to live it or allow others to decide for you.
One evening, after a long day, Michael visited his mom at the hospital. She was sitting up, smiling, stronger than she had been in months. She looked at him with tears in her eyes and whispered, "I always knew you were meant for something greater. Your story, it's not a curse, it's a gift." Michael hugged her tight, finally believing those words. And as the sun set that night, he thought back to the day he was fired, the shame, the loneliness, the anger. And he realized something powerful. Sometimes, life has to break you down so it can build you up even stronger. The very thing that had once cost him everything, his tattoos, his truth, was now the reason he was rising higher than ever before. And for everyone listening to his story today, Michael had just one message. Don't let the world tell you your scars make you less. Your scars are proof that you survived. And if I can stand back up after being thrown down, so can you. So, what about you? What's your story? Because maybe, just maybe, the very thing you're hiding right now is the key to your greatest comeback.
If you found this story powerful, don't just scroll away. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your own story in the comments. Who knows, your words might inspire someone else to keep going today.